Hello students, here we are in week 3 and I wanted to give you a little my video to help you perhaps if you're a visual learner as usual that this might help you understand the assignment this week a little bit better. So take a look, see what you think. So let's go ahead and minimize me. And so what we're at here, if you can, as you can see, of course 3.1, when you get to this project 3.1, you want to click on that rubric and guidelines. That's always a big must, and that will bring up this page here. And as you can see in this page, it has basically your important guidelines and information that you'll need to use. There's an overview. You can read that on your own. There's the directions. Now this is really important. You got to make sure that you understand. First of all, you have to have chosen right here APA or MLA. So hopefully by now you know for sure what your style you're going to write in, MLA or APA, and everything you do from this point on needs to be done in that same style. Okay, so stick with that style. So in this paper, what you're going to do is you're going to fill these out on just start with a blank page, a blank Word document, and you're just going to answer these questions. Please make sure you do this in Word and submit a Word docx, so that I'm able to comment on it and see it correctly and everything. You should be doing that for all your assignments, because if you submit in something other than docx, I may not be able to even access it, let alone comment on it and stuff like I like to. So, so what you see here, of course, is the different things you're going to need to make sure you include, and you can certainly label yours just the way it's labeled here. You can put number 1, the purpose of my research is blah, 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 and then talk about what your research is. And then under A, you might want to consider, talk about it. How is your research? What's the purpose of your research in light of your topic? So as you're answering this, remember that you want to connect it to your topic and how it's going to develop or what it's going to do for your topic choice, right? Remember, you'll be writing an argument paper, so you'll be arguing about this topic that you're going to be writing about. Number 2, state your research question. Now notice here it says state your revised research question. That's important. Don't just stick with the first research question you come up with, because there's always ways that you can read it and revise it and maybe make it better. So think about that before you slap it in there as it is, already as is. Think about if you could revise it and maybe make it a little bit better, maybe a little bit more straightforward, maybe cover things a little better based on what you've been learning. Remember, your research question should basically state what you're seeking to discover, right? And so you're just providing a question that you're seeking an answer to, and that research question is going to be a big answer, right? It's going to be the big question. You may end up having smaller questions that you use to help you answer that big question, but the research question is your big primary research question. It's the big question, the main question. Right? And just make sure you consider both parts. Consider all the parts, A, B, however many there are. State your revised research question, and based on your research, what you think your potential answer is to the question. This, in other words, is your hypothesis. Remember, in science class, hypothesis is that educated guess. And so you're just going to kind of consider what you're writing about and just basically state here what you think you may find. Right? That's your hypothesis. Okay? Now, the 3, describe the impact of using biased sources. So this, you need to make sure you've read the materials and learn a little bit about what makes sources biased. In other words, how do they come across sometimes as being very one-sided and unfair, and unfairly representing maybe the opposition and stuff, or not even representing their opposition side at all. So you want to be careful about bias in your own report, and in order to do that, you need to understand how to recognize bias in sources. So you want to make sure that you look for and see if there are any apparent biases in your sources that you have discovered and you're working with. Okay? And how will that impact your argument, right? If it's too impactful, it may be that you need to reconsider even using it, right? So that's something to consider too. Describe, number 4, your diverse perspectives. In other words, what are the different voices, right? What are the different beliefs about your topic, and where are those different voices come from? They might come from people of different backgrounds, different races, different vocations, whatever. It just depends on your topic, right? But what are those different voices? Who are they, and what do they have to say? How do they support your topic or relate to your topic? What are they going to do for your topic, in other words? Number 5, relevant sources. You got to have at least one source from the project resources document and at least 2 sources that you find through your own research. So when you finally do this project, you're going to have 3 sources minimum. One source has to be the one that you chose from the project resources document, which is what you'd use to do that last assignment, where you chose the article and you copy and pasted the article citation and everything. That's what it's talking about there. The other 2, and it says at least, so you can have more than 2, but you need to have definitely no less than 3 sources. The other 2 sources should come, or more, should come from your own research using the library, the Shapiro library. So you want to try as best as possible to find all your sources in the Shapiro library so that you're making full use of that library. Okay? So try to find, you got to have at least 3 sources. And then finally, you got to actually put them into proper formation based on whether you're doing APA or MLA. You got to put them into a proper format. Okay? And that's why it's going to be so important to use the exemplars that are offered in this. We'll talk about that in a minute. I'll probably go over those in a separate video. But you want to make sure you use that exemplar. It's going to merely make or break you. If you don't use the exemplars, it's probably going to affect your grade. So you really got to use the exemplars when they are provided. They're not provided every single time, but when they're provided, they are going to be essential for you. Probably more essential, I dare say, than the rubric itself. I always suggest you use the rubric as a checklist before you turn it in, maybe at the end after you've written it. You go through the rubric and see if you've done everything according to the exceeds versus does okay, or whatever the 3. We'll be talking about them here at the bottom here. So make sure you use that, and you got to choose that and stick with that MLA or APA, whichever you're going to use. Now, finally, you're going to describe how each source supports your topic. You're going to have a couple or 3 paragraphs under it, however you want to write them. You could do them all in one paragraph, I guess, but I think it would be nicer and better and easier to read if you do it in separate paragraphs. But notice what you're going to do is you're going to briefly summarize each source. So this is one paragraph. This is per source. So ABC on source 1, ABC on source 2, ABC on source 3. Make sure you understand that. You're not just summarizing all 3 sources in one place. You're summarizing each source individually. And then B, you're stating why that source, each source individually, is credible, what makes it worthwhile and makes it worth using. And then C, state how each source individually is relevant to your research question. All 3 of those, again, probably maybe 4 or 5 sentences each for your paragraphs under each thing, right? We'll be looking at, again, like I said, you're going to look at the exemplar and it'll show you exactly what some of this can look like. All right, here's what you're going to submit. 2 to 4 page Microsoft Word document. Make sure you use double spacing throughout the whole thing, all double spaced. 12-point font Times New Roman throughout the whole thing. If you do any copy and pasting, and you can tell, it's usually pretty easy to tell if your font is different when you cut and paste something into it. So if you cut and paste something in there, you got to make sure you select the whole document and then make sure it's all 12-point Times New Roman. Okay, 1-inch margins all the way around, and then the sources, of course, have to be cited in APA or MLA, whichever you decided to use. Now, I'm going to go ahead and let you see the rest of this stuff on the next video. So that'll be it for this video. Well, I want to try to keep them not too long, and so that'll do it. And make sure you see video number 2.